What's up, amigos? Coming to Jaime here today. Today we're gonna go over Fortuna Premium. So I'm gonna go over the winning image, the card choices, and some closing thoughts for a template for you guys to take and play with and mess with. So let's get right into it. Next Level Gaming has the new playmats already out for we have Bruce versus Bastion over here. Really amazing artwork, so I highly recommend. We also have the Vanguard Valentine's one, so if you're into like Angel Feather, for example, this would be perfect as well. And in the future coming out, we'll have something with Zorga versus Seraph Snow, so I'm excited for that one too. I'm gonna actually get that one myself too. So you can check out the affiliated link down in the description below and also get a 10% discount on your next purchase. Some of you may be asking like, wait, Fortuna in premium? And it is, we can use it. And so what Fortuna does, it has 3 skills. So the main skill that we care about is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast any number of cards from your soul, and then you check the top that many cards that you Soul Blasted, and then you could actually rearrange them in any order. So you're like stacking your deck in a sense, and you put them back. And really what it does, it helps stack your drive checks, and so that way you can take advantage of getting criticals or over triggers since we're in premium in this sense. So like very beneficial things that you can do. You could also set cards that maybe you want to soul charge to, and that can go in hand with her first skill, where it's like her other skill is that when she attacks, you can choose any number of riggers that you have, ideally 5, and then you can choose to soul charge basically 5 units in that sense if you want to go that far into your stack. This helps with really making the best use of your stack because you need soul for the next following turn. Not only that, but we have premium cards such as Marduk, where you need to counterblast 1 and soul blast 6. So being able to do this on attack is really nice, so it makes Marduk actually easier to do in that sense too, and you get the benefit of a triple drive instead of a normal twin drive that you would normally do in V premium in that sense too. And then another third ability that Fortuna has is that if when it gets attacked, or when it actually gets a damage, and if it's a trigger revealed, you get to generate a force marker. So if you're generating force marker 2s, for example, you'll get another one that you can put on the Vanguard or another regard circle, just depending on what you have currently. So this stack likes to go force 2 because you want to have that crit pressure, and then on top of the crits that you may be stacking makes it even more deadly. And that's why Marduk having that extra triple drive or extra drive check from the triple drive makes it even better in this sense too. And so that's where you can use this skill and go into that. So along with that winning image, we have a card like Idrisil that essentially is a restanding column. It's the Regalia engine that Genesis can use in any build really to be able to have a restanding Vanguard or a restanding Rearguard column to take advantage of. So with Fortuna, you can at least have those drive checks stack onto the Idrisil. Very similar to Himiko in this sense too. And some of you might be thinking like, what's the difference between Himiko and Fortuna? Himiko seems way better because Himiko does it in the main phase, and then you still have your drive checks in addition. And yes and no, they each have their little pros and cons, and so it's just that we can still use Idrisil with that pressure too, so that way you can stack those crits onto that, and maybe even best use of the over trigger, because if you dig deep enough into your deck, there's a chance for you to stack your over trigger. Then that means Idrisil, being a grade 3, has twin drive now. So it's really cool in that sense too. And then of course it'll lose 1 drive check when it restands itself, and then you have another drive check in that sense, so you can get 3 drives from just a Idrisil column in the sense too, outside of your Vanguard too. So the next grade 3 that actually helps with the deck too is Kroot, and so I kind of went into the winning image into like the actual grade 3s. It's just they go hand in hand more. So I'll just make this like this is the chart card choices. So we have 4 Fortuna, the 4 Idrisil, and now we have 3 of the Kroot. Kroot has been seen with Fenrir, and it helps soul charge a lot of soul. And as you can tell, the best use of Fortuna is being able to soul blast enough to be able to stack enough. That way you are likelihood to increase the chances of seeing those triggers that you do want to see, right? And furthermore, it helps with Marduk's cost too, because if you think about it, Soul Blast 6 is hefty, and if you're Soul Blasting like 3 to 6 cards from Fortuna, that's Soul Blast 12, right? So Kroot is just helpful in that sense too, just massive soul charge. And you just build a field and you call Kroot, and you can soul charge 6 cards. If you call on top of another unit, you would have 7 units in total, so you can soul charge 7. So that's how you can get that extra soul charge too, just if people didn't know that. So that's why Kroot's so helpful. Not only that, in the premium aspect, in the like first stride, for example, if you don't have a good setup for Fortuna, you can still fall back to our premium stride, our Maruta, right? This card is able to counterblast and of course give plus 10 cannon crit to unit, but we have access to the Soul Blast 15 skill as well. Soul Blast 15, you may be asking yourself like, that's a lot on first stride, but it's actually really easy. So if you didn't have enough soul to build up right, when you stride onto Amaruta, and you can use her revelation skill to soul charge again if you really need to, but when you use her counterblast skill, it checks if you have 4 or less cards in the soul, and if you do, you're able to draw 2 cards and soul charge 5 more cards. So that puts you 9 in the soul. Now with crew, if you soul charge 6, right, that means 6 plus 9 is 15 cards in soul. Boom, you met the condition just like that first try. So that's what's really nice about crew, because we then have a fallback option with Amaruta having that aggression. And again, if you have the Idriso column to go along with that, let's say you maybe draw it from Amaruta skill too. You may draw it into the Idriso in that point, and then now you have more pressure with your turn, or just combo pieces to go off in that sense too. The last grade 3s are the grade 3 heals. This is just help for defensive purposes in the early game. You want to accumulate counterblast. This is the one thing that hurts Fortuna, in my opinion, is the counterblast cost with its skill. You need a counterblast for Marduk, you need a counterblast for Fortuna, you need a counterblast for Idrisol. So you can see that's already 3 counterblasts. And in today's metagame, it's, you know, if you can get 1 to 2 counterblasts, that's awesome. But like when you need 3 to make a really impactful turn, it really hurts the deck in a sense too. Not only that, but it's like some people may even damage deny you. And if you do have the grade 3 heal to give you a damage in this case, you're gonna either choose Fortuna or start going into Marduk if there's still a grade 2 and you're going into the grade 3 turn. All of which you have to pull back to your stride turns and really go from there. So I think the grade 3 heals help with giving you damage, but also like control how much damage you eat, because some decks are very aggressive in the early game. So maybe you want to take a power up to the Vanguard or reduce crit from an attack or something, so that doesn't put you too high of a damage and now you fall behind, because you want to get to 2 to 3 damage, so you could take advantage of that too. On to the grade 2s, we're playing 4 Norn, we're playing 3 Ulysses, 2 Gleipnir, and 1 of the Chamomiles. And so really I try to do the essence of Fortuna with the new support, like Chamomiles grade 2 and then Valencia is the grade 1. But as I play tested in premium, these cards don't do as much as I hope them to do. And before I really dive into what they do separately, let's just focus on the basis core to make this deck function entirely. So you want to play the 4 Gnomes because you do play the Regalia engine. It helps to soul charge, draw cards. If you also happen to ride Idriso, you have a restanding Vanguard, or if you at the same time go into the stride game, you can stride with the Minerva grade 4 and still be able to have access to a restanding Vanguard that way with Norm. So you still have that fallback option as the Minerva grade 4. And with Ulysses, we needed a card to soul charge, because once you get to grade 3, you need to have a decent amount of soul to be able to take advantage and increase the likelihood of that stack being really good. And so Ulysses helps with soul charging Incense itself and then another card, and still give you back advantage, but also give you some early aggression too, so that way you can poke, put your opponent to 2 to 3 or 4 damage, and then puts them in a range where you can be lethal in that sense. You put a Force 2 marker in your Vanguard, you stack your deck, your opponent might want to perfect guard that, right, in that sense too. And so we have Gleipnir, so I wanted to increase the consistency of the deck, and as you massively soul charge with this deck too, you are bound to soul charge nice key pieces into your soul and you would like to use, right? And so that's why a card like Gleipnir actually is able to counterblast and grab you a card, or soul charge and grab you a card from the soul, so that way you can use it whether it be like an Idriso, maybe a Crew to further soul charge, or a Norn, or even some of the grade 1s that you want to use in that sense. So that's why I play some Gleipnir. And going into the Chamomile, this is where its skills are nice, but I feel it doesn't help overall the big picture. And so the first skill is that at the start of your battle phase, if you Soul Blast 3 or more cards during your main phase, you're able to superior call this from your soul. Now at first it seems like that's really nice. You just get a free beater, so you don't have to put everything to the board. But here's the thing, there's conflicts with that. One, you want to Soul Blast stuff, so you need to accumulate a big enough soul to be able to Soul Blast. Now you have to keep this within the soul still, so now you have to additionally Soul Blast other stuff. So now this is something that you can't use for your Soul Blast clause to begin with at that point. The second thing is Crew. Crew wants you to commit to the board. So if you want to maximize a Crew like Soul Charge 6 or 7, you're filling your board, right? And because of the start of the battle phase, if you call Chamomile, it really just replaces one of the units that you already committed. So you're not plussing in a sense, you're just replacing what you already committed to. And its second skill is, it's a nice beater because it gets plus 10k, but then at the end of the battle it retires itself. So you can even take advantage of restanding it, or some form of like a stand trigger or something like that to have a nice beater in that sense. Gleipnir is actually a much more nicer beater because Gleipnir can Soul Blast on attack to get 10k for the entire turn, and it stays on board. Like Gleipnir is just better at that too. even though it's a Soul Blast 1. But then again, you have to this Soul Blast is itself, so it's kind of a Soul Blast 1 in a sense. So I don't know whether we're trying to go with Chamomile in this sense. So I just wanted to express those thoughts. And ultimately, I feel like you could remove this card. I just try to keep it for the essence of Fortuna. You could put a third Gleipnir, you could put a 4 Ulysses, or maybe change some of the lineup to include different units to help with whatever you're trying to accomplish too. Going on to the grade 1s, we have for me Jaime. So this is the Soul Blast 3 reducer for you. So this is super helpful, but not for Fortuna. I want to make that clear. So you may think like, oh, you can use Fortuna's cost and stack that many cards. No. So what happens if you try to Soul Blast 6 for Fortuna, but you use the Soul Blast reducer to 3, you Soul Blast 3 cards total. Fortuna counts what you Soul Blasted, so you get to only stack 3 cards, not 6 in that sense. So then you're asking yourself, so what's the point of this card? Right? The point of this card is because it helps Marduk be able to reduce in that sense. So after you do a Fortuna turn, then you can call the Jaime from hand to Soul Blast reduce Marduk's cost. You have a Counterblast Soul Blast 3 now, or if you have pop 2 of them, you have Counterblast 1 Marduk in that sense when you do the attack in that sense. Plus this helps with your Minerva fallback turns because Minerva needs to Soul Blast 3 Regalias to get an extra drive check. This makes it 0. So you don't have to have as many Regalias in this deck but still have access to a nice first stride restanding Minerva turn in that sense too. And then of course you have other cards such as like Amaruta in the sense where it's Soul Blast 15, now reduce it to by 3 to make it 12, and then if you have a second one that reduces to 9. So it just helps with making those turns work still with having Fortuna still in mind but not impacting the Fortuna, if that makes more sense in that sense. So then we have PGs. Now the problem again, like I suggested with Fortuna, is the Counterblast. So if you're Counterblasting 2 to 3 on a daily basis, you're gonna run out of counterblasts, and so that's why I wanted to add some kind of form of countercharge management. That's where I thought of the PGs from like the G era. These are the PGs that can only perfect guard your Vanguard from attacks. In the sense you can protect your rear guards, but most of the time we use them from the Vanguard anyway, so it doesn't make sense. But once you have 1 in the drop zone and you perfect guard, you're able to countercharge 1. So this helps with countercharging. But I feel like a more impactful card would be Claimer Harry, which is the card next to it. It's a 2 copies. It's a GB1 card though, so you have to be mindful of that. And so basically when you Soul Blast, you can actually choose one of the cards that you Soul Blasted and actually bottom deck it to your deck and then countercharge 1. So 2 things happen. Your countercharge management, if you have 2 and you Soul Blast and bottom deck 2 cards from the Soul Blast, you get to countercharge 2, which is really nice because if you're doing that turn by turn basis, you're able to basically do stuff for free. So you counterblast 2 or 3 and then get it back from these guys in that sense too. And then if you have perfect guard, you get more countercharge back during your opponent's turn in that sense too. So these cards are really good. The only problem that I have with these cards, and I would have increased it to maybe 3 or 4, is the GB1 restriction. So for example, if you are trying to do your Fortuna grade 3 turn while your opponent's a grade 2 and do Marduk, you can't Soul Blast from Marduk's cost to Superior Stride and have a Claimer Harry see that and actually benefit from it. Because what happens is that you do pay the cost for Marduk, but you're not Generation Break yet. So you're paying the cost already, so it missed the timing from that. So by the time that Marduk actually lands onto the Vanguard circle, then afterwards you're Generation Break live. But Claimer Harry missed that in that sense too. So I think that's how that works. If I'm wrong, go ahead and correct me. Because if I'm wrong, then maybe there's some flexibility in that sense too. But if you realize that your counterblast is main phase for Fortuna, your counterblast is Marduk during the battle phase, and Idris is a counterblaster in the main phase. So you kind of need that sooner rather than later. So before you even get to Marduk, there's no way to have Generation Break live outside of what's banned with Zazarn, right? In that sense. So yeah. The next grade one that I wanted to add to help out with the consistency is Skull. This is the top 5 grade 3 searcher. So as you can see, we're playing a lot of grade 3s, right? And we have access to the heals. Just like in prior like Regalia profiles, it's nice to have going second. You need to grab that heal to live against a deck, against like Kaguro, for example. Or if it's you need a missing piece, whether you ride consistency with Fortuna, you need a rearguard presence as Idrisol, or maybe you need soul charge management with Crew. And that's why that Skull is there to help you with consistency, to help dig deeper, to finding those pieces that you really need in that moment to help you out with that regards. Then we have Valencia too. Just like I said with Valencia, it's more like the Fortuna aesthetic in that sense. But I realized it's okay. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. And so when it's Soul Blasted during the main phase, it's so very specific, is that you can actually bind this card and then choose a card and bottom deck it to your deck in the sense. So it's useful in that sense to be able to not deck out, but you're returning cards. But the other skill too is that it's kind of neat. It's during the battle phase, is that at the end of the battle that this unit boosted an attack, you could put this column in sense into the soul and draw you a card. So it's like, okay, it kind of goes away, gives you card back, but you're losing 2 cards, only getting 1 card back. So you are losing advantage in that sense. But this kind of goes hand in hand with what's her name, the chamomile. So that way you can actually put it in there, keep it safe, and then pop it out. I think that's the intent. And it helps with Fortuna's Soul Blast for the next turn, or Marduke's cost in a sense, so it helps with that regard. But I feel like maybe you can change Valencia out for another card too. But again, I just wanted to try it out because it's a Fortuna support in that sense too. And now more into the triggers. So I wanted to maximize the aggression that Fortuna can. And so that's why I have a lot of crit. So we have 4 of the Stride Fighter crit. You need to stride the grade 3s that you have. You call to a rearguard circle, you call Idrisol, you call crew, you ride Idrisol too if you want to, you could ride Fortuna. So those grade 3s are being used, so you'd rather use this card to pitch the stride. With the countercharge PG, we had room for another Sentinel, so I put the crit Sentinel. So that's why that crit Sentinel is there in that place. It helps with that shield too, and it's a 1-card guard for most attacks too, so it helps with that too. And then you have the crits that go into soul as well, so just more soul fodder in the sense. And again, it misses that timing with Marduke. When the Vanguard attacks your Night Generation Break Light, if you're grade 3 and your opponent's grade 2, you have to wait till like the strike game essentially for that. But it's something, right? And so again, you have the extra crit, which is that you can replace this crit, vanilla crit, with the new Keter Sanctuary crits that go into soul and give a unit plus 2k. I forgot those existed for premiums. So you can replace the Tiger with one of those crits too. So it makes it a little more fluid, another card to be soul charged. In fact, if you want to, you can go 4 of those and one of the GB1 crits too. If you really need the extra soul in the early game, I think those cards would be good because they're in the battle phase. They can go before Marduke needs to go off in that sense too. And then the overtrigger, like I said, you want to maximize the stacking, so I feel like you can go with the Cray Elemental too, but I feel like this is more beneficial because you're doing the Idrisil column, and Kroot is one of the cards you call in the front too. So now you have 2 grade 3s that can take advantage of the overtrigger with twin drives. So you're at a minimum 6 to 7 drive checks on those turns when you get an overtrigger, plus your 100 million plus to something, right? So it helps in that regard too. And that's why, you know, the grade 2s aren't so many, because you have Idrisil and you have Kroot to be mainly in the front row. So the grade 2s maybe be an area that you don't need to have a lot, and especially with cards like Ulysses that go away, you have cards like Gleipnir to get you something, and then you have other cards like Norn that really boost to be able to have those freestand and stuff. So, and then lastly we have the Dreaming Dragon. This is more for like the deck out situation. That's why I added Gleipnir too, is that if I do soul charge the Dreaming Dragon, I can at least grab it with Gleipnir if I do see Gleipnir in that sense too, and then if I so happen to draw it, then I have access to it too, so it helps in that regard too. And then keep in mind we do have G guards that help soul charge from the drop too, so you can fix your soul to be able to grab key pieces that may have hit damage or maybe been milled or some kind of weird effect and those kinds of things. But other than that, that's pretty much the deck list. It's more of a, for me, I think it's more of a casual deck than it is for competitive reasons. I feel like there's more competitive Genesis decks that we have as a clan as a whole, but I wanted to share this as it's kind of a cool aspect to mess with if you like Fortuna from back in the day, which I did play for a little bit too. Is it's really nostalgic in that sense too. And also what I realized too is that there's some room for improvement, and we got some new cards such as like Veritrum the promo, we got like the Apple Cider Witch. These cards help you with like Disruptive Plays or like with soul key pieces in the soul too with Apple Cider. It's just finding the room for that. I don't know about Veritrum because it does use a counterblast and it does use soul. So now you have stuff fighting like Fortuna, Marduke, and maybe if you tech 1 and then you can grab it with Gleipnir, then it works out because then you have like Claim Your Harrys to set up or like the countercharge PGs to give you counterblast back to work with. It's just like making it work with all the problems that you're trying to mitigate with Fortuna. I'll be upfront with that in that sense too. And so with the Stride Stone, it's really flexible. I didn't even include it because it was something that I was just trying out for fun. Key cards would be Marduke, Amaruta, Minerva, the G guards that soul charge really. Anything else that you want to try out, you're more than welcome to splash in that sense too. And that's the deck profile, amigos. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, this I don't think anybody has done like Fortuna Premium. At least I couldn't find anything on YouTube or something, or to the day of this recording as well, and so I wanted to get this out so you guys can see. I think it's a cool deck, but I'm also excited for the new stuff that came out recently with Himiko Reverse and some of like even the Yatagarasu too. So it's just more stuff to mess with Genesis. And as you can see, there's some key cards that are over and over. Most Genesis decks can reuse, like the Regalia engine. You got cards like Crew that can reuse, and it's just a lot of cool synergy with the cards that we have in this card pool. Now it's just finding ratios that work with a specific deck and what it's trying to accomplish at sense. And so with that, amigos, if this video was some of value to you, please leave a like, and that way it helps the YouTube algorithm for any card fighters like yourself to find this video. If you know anybody that likes Genesis, feel free to share it too. Comment down below, what are your thoughts? What are some crazy things that you're trying out with Genesis too? I know we got the new reverse units too. Some people are making new Lean Joker decks too with them, so I'm curious with that respect. And I do have a V premium deck profile for Himiko coming out with the reverse too, so if you're interested about that, that will be coming out soon on top of this as well. And if you plan to purchase more cards from TCG Player, go ahead and use the affiliate link. It helps the channel out. And then of course, if you want to level up your gaming, you can check out Next Level Gaming, and again, the 10% discount for the next purchase too. Playmats with Spring Fest coming out, there's a 3 playmat for special going on, so I think you get like 25% off, so definitely take advantage of that too on top of that. And so without further ado, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications too, and for future content to come soon. See ya, amigos. Bye.